Geeta Mohan, our foreign affairs editor, is with us. Geeta, get us a bit of perspective. Why are the Western nations at this point of time not stepping in, or are they? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, Chaiti, the fact that Sri Lanka, this is not the first time that Sri Lanka has hit a financial low and has been under financial stress. It has been a country that has been coping with the finances and economic downturn for a while now, and has also received bailouts in terms of international organizations. So international organizations at this juncture, at this point, are not looking to rescue Sri Lanka because they already have in the past sent a lot of relief to Sri Lanka or bailed them out. And therefore, right now for Sri Lanka has to look at a plan of rescue in terms of a financial plan for the country. And that certainly can happen once there is a tad amount of stability in the government. So let's see what the all-party government check is going to look like. Having said that, Sri Lanka has two plans. One, they're already looking and reaching out to these international financial organizations, but they're also looking at bilateral arrangements. They have been reaching out to India. India has sent a lot of aid and help to Sri Lanka, but with the recent fuel shortage, India has made it a point to let Sri Lanka know that they will have to make advance payments if they should India be sending fuel to Sri Lanka.
So there are two things that crop up. One is the resumption of talks as far as the bailout package is concerned from the IMF. And secondly, with this kind of a state of anarchy, shouldn't nations step in to help resolve this crisis in Sri Lanka?
Well, very important and a pertinent point, Chaiti, because the growing conversation with regards to Sri Lanka is that this is an opportunity for India to really come to Sri Lanka's rescue and find its place back in this very important geostrategically located island nation on the Indian Ocean. China, that had a huge stronghold over Sri Lanka, and in the recent past its influence was really growing, has not really come to Sri Lanka's rescue. In fact, a lot of experts thought that it would be China who would be looking at bailout packages for Sri Lanka, but that certainly did not happen. So China has washed its hands off, although the projects that China got is something that China is not going to let go of. But besides that, and it's interesting, Chaiti, in the beginning of this entire crisis, when the entire country had come to a standstill, the port projects of China continued, and work was ongoing on those project sites. We do not know whether that's the case right now. It doesn't seem like it. But that's how determined China is to finish their own projects, but not looking at development per se of the country and the good of the country per se. So questions that the Sri Lankan leadership now needs to ask as to whether if they should have put all their eggs in the Chinese basket. Having said that, they're looking at China, but on fuel supplies, they're also looking at Russia. They have urged Russia for oil and for fuel supply from Russia. Moscow is yet to respond, because if that happens, if Russia is willing to pay them on credit or to send them fuel on credit, the country could get back at least a little on track in terms of the economy moving. There can be no movement without fuel, and that's why the protests and protesters, because there is no way they can run anything, and it's the reason why the swell of crowds yesterday that we witnessed in the streets of Colombo.
You know, these are unbelievable scenes coming in from Colombo right now. Let me also, Geeta, stay on with us. Let me also bring in Chaturanga, who's joining us from Sri Lanka at this point of time. Chaturanga, these are unbelievable scenes that are coming in. And as far as the law and order situation is concerned, let's not even talk about it because of what is going on right there. The army has been deployed as well. But in terms of everyday life, the common man, how much are they suffering today? What are you picking up? Chaturanga, can you hear me? If you could just unmute your audio, Chaturanga.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go on.
Yeah, as I was trying to say, up until yesterday, when this situation erupted into what we are seeing it as today, the people here in our country were suffering quite a lot. People were staying in kilometers of queues for gasoline, that is petrol and diesel. We were staying in line for LPG gas. People were staying in line for essential items. The cost of living was high. The absolute mismanagement of the Sri Lankan economy, the absolute inability of the government that was in power to ensure that the people have a normal life. They are not requesting anything luxurious at this moment. All they are asking is for very general, very normal day-to-day things. And the government could not manage the economy to the situation where we had to, the people of our country, the media of this country had to look out into the ocean and to see whether anything that was granted by the Indian oil company or the Indian government was coming in a ship to Sri Lanka. That was the situation here in Sri Lanka. That is still the situation in Sri Lanka. And just because houses are destroyed and Ranil Wickremesinghe's house is set on fire behind me does not solve the issue that had been created in the country. We still need intervention. We still need support from the international community. And it should be mentioned that there was a very generous amount of support that came from India. But that being said, we understand as a country that there is no free lunches. India will also have its geopolitical motives here in the region, and though we have been friends and a neighboring nation, India will have its own agenda, and that is understood. But what we have done to ourselves as a country and as a people is really disappointing, really sad to say the least. And you see the results of what this has cost. I mean, this residence that you see behind me is in the heart of Colombo. So what is going to happen to the law and order situation in Sri Lanka? What is the precedent that we are setting for the future of our country? What else do we have to offer to our youth in this nation? So these are some of the key problems that we have as a nation right now.
This is a crisis. You're very right. This is an absolute state of crisis right there in Sri Lanka.